Trying to make a film about mothers, fathers, that sense of isolation that you feel when you first got a child. First step is to go to the Bristol Playhouse.
The Playhouse has been around since 1976, and we're a family centre with a stay and play, drop-in for parents, and a preschool nursery.
I love the place because it's been such a brilliant place for me to go to, and for my kids to go to, and to meet people and to get support. It's just been fantastic, fantastic resource.
We get families, get mums come in, dads come in, grandparents, the family benefit people, they come. The librarian, she comes and does a session here.
Go to the Playhouse and you look around and the people that are there broadly reflect the population of Easton itself. Children get to play with people from all walks of life, which I think is very important, but also people from all over the community get to benefit from it and get to enjoy that.
I'm really upset and worried and stressed about the fact that actually it isn't going to be there in the same way for Albie, because I've had 2 children, I've gone through the place with 2 children. I want to be able to do it with him as well. Hopefully it will be there in some capacity. We're going to try our best to make sure that happens. But
the Playhouse is in a state of flux because it's always been supported by grants from either the local authority, in latter years by children's centres, by the Big Lottery and by Children in Need. And those days are coming to an end.
Lots of parents have got challenges, you know, and they need to be identified, and that's why places like this are really important, that you can go to this and, you know, and then from there, if you do need any further support, that places like this can help you, you know, access the support in other places.
I think at the start I probably thought I could still carry on doing everything I was going to do, take the baby with me, but it didn't quite work out that way. But I think maybe having a play group or something like that might have helped.
Yeah.
Having other people in my situation may have helped, I just didn't know where.
I think you have to find a group where you connect with people, or that people are like-minded. I think sometimes you can't just say, oh, well, you're all mums, so all sit down together, and I'm sure you have plenty of things in common. You can talk about babies and nappies, and you have to be able to connect with people.
What has happened with the lack of money lately and in the recession is that all aspects of professional help have been really cut to the bone, and there is not the available time, and health visitors, social workers, support workers don't have the capacity to pick up non-child protection cases where isolation is overwhelming and help the parents to deal with that.
Grande corazón, pena grande Babilón, merece clandestino, parábola da ley. So I guess I want to hear about your perspective on isolation. Or what does it feel to become a mother?
Looking back on it now, I was very, very, very isolated. I didn't have anybody come to my house. I probably didn't see my friends for a good 2 or 3 years.
What was that transition to motherhood like?
I don't think the process is long enough for you to adjust. I do think it kind of hits you like that. And, you know, I think a lot of people say, no, 9 months of pregnancy is plenty of time, but I do think elephants have got it right, 2 years. It gives you real time to absorb and sink in the fact that you're going to be a parent.
I think as well, sometimes as a young black woman, having my first child at 22, you worry so much about what other people think. Oh, you can't do that because you black people don't do that. You can't go to baby groups and things like that. You don't do that. You still hang around with your friends and you do everything like you were supposed to do.
I've already felt a little bit awkward being a dad in a circle of what's predominantly mums. I mean, that may well be me projecting my own insecurities on that, but that's how I felt at the time.
My experience was a bit different because my first baby was stillbirth. When you're told, like a car crash, and I think from there on you're already isolated. because, you know, as the other mothers in the hospital, you treated totally different.
We're up at 4 o'clock in the morning when nobody else in the world is awake, and you've suddenly got yourself and you've got this baby and you're tired, but you've got lots of things in your mind, and I think that's when you start to really digest the fact that you're a parent and get used to the fact that this person is going to be shaped by you.
Just made me jump!
Childcare issues have moved on, and you know, you need to have your finger on the pulse. You need to become an expert because things change so quickly and so radically. And as cut after cut after cut happens, the criteria change, all sorts of aspects change.
We didn't want to face anyone because it was us bringing sad news, being in whatever we were. It was a symbol of sadness. So that isolation, it was, you know, far beyond anything I expected to be isolated as a mother.
You've kind of got to take charge and go, right, okay, so what kind of life will we lead, and what can I create, and what kind of space will there be for my child in this world? And also you watch adverts on TV of mums with their children in parks, and you do have this very unrealistic idea of what motherhood's going to be like sometimes.
Society put into you that you go, as long as it comes with, you know, a healthy baby, that is fine. So I heard that so many times, that, you know, the mothers, carers assessment, saying that, how they felt about it, in caring for their own daughter or son. And it was just like, you know, I just couldn't cope.
My concern, especially with the children of parents who are isolated or suffering postnatal depression or have English as a second language, is that it's those children who are going to fall through the net and won't be referred to any preschool provision.
We find it very hard to find money because there's more people going for the same pots, and the monitoring and the trying to prove, you know, that you're doing a good work is getting harder and harder to do. They want more and more and more proof, and it's very hard to measure how well you've done with people.
If a child grows up with an isolated, depressed mother, their role model isn't terribly good, and it's not the mother's fault. We know that welfare rights advisors, we know that citizens' advice, we know that law centres are completely overrun. I don't know where people go for this sort of help. The children who are in real danger, they're probably being looked after. There's the middling lot where people aren't coping, and the not coping lot are going to be the lot that suffer.
Okay, so I've just had my first day back from maternity leave, back at work. It's very exciting to be back at work because it's very isolating being at home. I went to Southmead Children's Centre. I phoned them up, told them I was coming, and they very generously let me sit with a group of mums and tell them a bit about the project. I'm hoping to make a website for the project. Someone was saying that that was a good idea, and I think it is a good idea. So I'm looking forward to this. Anyway, I'm more willing to accept failure, and I know that failure is inbuilt into this project of motherhood. We will constantly fail ourselves, our children, the expectations of society. So I'm looking forward to continuing with the project. What I was thinking about, which is interesting from your situation, is that life was already very hard when you had children. Did you have your kids in this country?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to start from there?
I was quite young, I think. Well, it depends. In my community, it's really over the hill, really old to be having my first one. But in British society, I was quite young, quite a young mum.
For me, it's no hard experience, happy experience. That is my beautiful things that happened to me.
Once we moved up to Bradley Stoke and I was now pregnant with Damari and then having a toddler as well, at that stage, the only person I had up there was my auntie. and I didn't have a car, so I had to catch the bus.
And the bus services in Bristol, I think, have a lot of blame in making mothers isolated. Taking the bus into town was always a nightmare, because the amount of women who used the bus 49, 48 was immense.
So it was literally being stuck in Bradley Stoke, only coming out for work. I didn't see my friends at all at that point. Didn't go to any baby groups, so I literally went to work, came home, and that was it. That was my life.
I spoke to my granddad and said, when you came here, what did you initially plan? I'm sure his plan was I'd come here, work, make enough money, go back home and live back in Pakistan.
That's why the people came here, so I think my country thinks they have lots of money here. If you work for 2 or 3 years, you're gonna save money, go back and do it something in Albania. But it's different. For me, it's more better to go in Albania. Yes, I have a very big family and I miss my family, my sister. But when I think for my life, for children life, and for for school and for many things, it's more better to stay here.
I think life circumstances, your children going to school here, establishing roots here, that never really panned out, and the dream of going back never happened. And so it was down to the generation below them, my mum's generation, to then deal with, okay, how do we amalgamate these two different cultures together and pave a life for our children.
I'm asylum seeker, so I applied for asylum 5 years ago. They say you can't stay, you need to go back to Albania. After I applied again, and now for 3 years I don't have the answer yet.
When did you find the playhouse then?
3 years ago, when I came here. I have a little baby when I came here.
When you've got a baby and you've got nap times, you've got feeding, you've got maybe the weather's bad, or you just don't want to go out, it's just easy to stick to what's nearby, and that's what's really important, that you have places nearby, like the playhouse for you and the support networks, because otherwise you just end up staying at home in your pyjamas and think, maybe I am suffering from depression because I'm always at home in my pyjamas.
The other thing that people who are isolated and lonely and feel trapped at home is that life is run in a lot of establishments round term times. Depression and isolation doesn't disappear because it's the Easter holidays.
There's no real social housing around now, is there? A lot of it is tenancy from landlords. That has an impact because quite often they've got to move on after 6 months.
When I speak to the older generation, they always talk about how you have this neighbourliness, which I think has gone. I think we live in a society which is sort of almost advocating a division or isolation of people.
School holidays for people with preschool children, where everything closes, it's the death.
It's terrible.
And you take your little ones somewhere else, you save up and pay the enormous amount to go to the zoo or something, it's heaving. Yeah. You don't want to go.
Do the people feel it on the ground? Are people feeling, basically, the cuts? Are new parents feeling the cuts, and if so, how?
We've gotten to a point where we can choose, depending on what social class you belong to, and economic resources you have access to.
It's been going downhill, the children's services stuff, for the last 5 or 6 years, I suppose. It's been gradually tightening up on their expenditure, the government. And really, it's very, very sad because it's at a time now when parents really, really need it.
I've spoken to lots of mums as well, and lots of mums have said, oh, I used to put up with this a lot, and then when I had my children I thought I've got no time to put up with this nonsense or that nonsense, and I've made changes in my life. which I wouldn't have done otherwise. And I do think you do become a lot more powerful when you become a mum in yourself, because you have to become stronger for somebody else. A lot of people kind of are fearful of motherhood because it's so strong, it's so powerful, and suddenly victims can turn into heroes. As I grow, the world gets smaller. Eternal darknesses unfold, I grow and lights switch off. Darknesses expand and explode dust that fills up my lungs. My breath catches. I grow and the stifling world gets smaller. The thick dimness of the stars bear down on me, and the world turns around and closes itself off from me. And as I grow, my roots start to take hold of my smothered spirit, and I hoard heavy. I collect galaxies in your weight, gathering the formations of clouds. I am sucked into their vortexes, under their weight I tire. My mind spirals through the world, my arms outstretched, my hands grabbing. I grow, I prepare. I want to rest, but my mind will not be still. It bears down on me, nothing seems enough, and all around me the world keeps swallowing into itself.
So, what do I want to say here? I looked to make a film about motherhood and isolation, and I thought, okay, these issues, they're kind of banal. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows that motherhood is isolating, that new parenthood is hard. Most of the research has been done on white middle-class women, and hardly anybody has looked at non-dominant women's experiences of isolation in early motherhood. So I set out to make a film about non-dominant, immigrant, working class, non-white people's experiences. Social class is not to be underestimated in its effects on people and their experiences of becoming a parent. The social structures which are currently in place isolate women in the home, and the lack of funding for children's centres, the lack of proper infrastructure to get women out of homes and into cities. If you cut the support in the earliest days to people, it sets in motion a train of things, emotional and social, that can end up costing, if you want that kind of framing of it, can end up costing the society a lot more. And definitely in terms of the human side of it, it costs us a lot because people are suffering. And I just follow me. Good boy. Maybe some arm circles. Arms back. And turn it around. And maybe turn around the other way so you go like this. You guys are so tolerant of me. I love this. Thank you so much. Let's go the other way. And now in and out. In and out. See, everyone dancing. Everything on stage. And just do whatever you want now. I'm going to hide behind Shagusta. Behind the wall. Camera, yeah.
Cheese.
Cheese.
Once in a while, glance at me. Once in a while, dance with me. Can you take a chance to be, to dwell together. Can I get this out of my head? Can I still remember my dread? The time before, the time we were, but now nothing more becomes me. Still, stillness, a pin drops, thin and flinty as air. Fingers snap, crack, a track.